Hello and welcome to Budget with Business Standard. I am Ruchika Chitravanshi. This is the show where we bring to you all news, views and analysis regarding all the happenings in the run-up to the budget FY 2025. Let me introduce you to our guest today. We have with us senior journalist Shrimi Chaudhary and we have with us our editorial director, Mr. Ashok Kumar Bhattacharya. Welcome to the show, both of you. Today's subject of discussion is disinvestment. The interim budget did not have any disinvestment target. Instead, it was mentioned under something called the miscellaneous capital receipts, which as we understand clubbed asset monetization and disinvestment target. So government as a strategy has not set any disinvestment targets, and from what we are hearing, even the full budget that will come in a few days will not have any specific disinvestment target. Shrimi, let me start with you. Is privatization, disinvestment off the table?
Thank you for having me, Ruchika. I would not say that it's off the table. I would rather say that government has taken strategic pause at this point of time because they are not in the hurry. That's what the sense we are getting from the DIPAM, the department which handles the disinvestment and the privatization for the government. So what they are doing at this point of time, that those proceeds and those disinvestment which are in the pipeline, for example, IDBI Bank, Concor, Shipping Corporation, they are trying to conclude that first. And that has been the focus, at least for the DIPAM in this fiscal year. But if you see the way it's going, privatization, I would like to give a short recap of the privatization policy which Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman has introduced in FY21, where the policy is pretty clear that government would exit all the non-strategic sectors which they are in, and they will keep a bare minimum, stakes in the strategic sectors like bank, insurance, telecom, etc. Now the thing is that since the privatization policy have been introduced, followed by that, there is an announcement on that government will privatize 2 banks also and 1 insurance company as well. However, there is no such declaration on the part that which 2 banks will they privatize, and even the insurance company. But the important part is that for doing that, to facilitate that, 2 banks and 1 insurance company, they would require to amend Banking Regulation Act and Insurance Act, which they haven't done so far. So insurance they have done, but they have not actually, given that provision which will sort of facilitate this.
Okay, sir. So Shrimi is saying it is not off the table. We've not been meeting our disinvestment targets as well. What do you think of this whole stance of the government?
Well, I think she's right. And she has ears close to the finance ministry. So, but what is happening on the disinvestment front actually very interesting. At one level, I also believe that disinvestment definitely is not off the table. Is very much on the cards, but the way it will happen is in a different way. And first, I will tell you how I see it will happen in a different way, which is that there would be a lot of asset monetization, which will be clubbed into part of the disinvestment proceeds and all that. There is no privatization per se. Please remember, the Modi government's track record on privatization has been abysmal. Just one company that has been privatized. And even in the initial stage, they were not talking about any privatization. They're talking about strategic disinvestment. So privatization came rather late in the day and only one company. So what may happen now is that coalition politics may start operating. Now, what is coalition politics? Now, if Mr. Naidu, the Chief Minister of Andhra Pradesh, he wants the BPCL, then most probably the center will say, yes, go ahead. Take BPCL. What does it mean? It essentially means the transaction between the state government and the center. So it remains in the state sector, but the center gets some money.
Has this happened before?
It has not happened. It has happened in different ways. It has happened, for example, when ONGC got HPCL, and HPCL was sold to ONGC. So today, HPC is actually owned largely by HPCL is owned largely by ONGC. So I think coalition politics will probably play a role in the government's disinvestment strategy in this budget. That's one. And number two, I do see that there is some sort of reluctance on the part of the government in amending the Banking Regulation Act. So therefore, I don't see the banks to be privatized as was announced. And in terms of the policy which Niti Aayog had framed and the finance minister had announced, which Srini pointed out, I think that policy will probably will not be implemented the way it was conceived, not at least in this budget.
AKB is talking about the Banking Regulation Act and how government doesn't want to amend it. You've also said that is a bit of a tricky area. What is happening with the whole IDBI privatization?
So, Ruchika, apart from IDBI, they announced that 2 more banks they are looking to privatize. Okay, so on the IDBI front, from last fiscal itself, they are very actively, working on it. So they have called all the expression of interest, and a lot of bidders participated, and they finally shortlisted bidders as well, which also includes some foreign institutional investors, what we're hearing from our sources. So now the entire thing is, it's stalled somewhere with RBI at this point of time, because government is also waiting for fit and proper, which the due diligence, which is very important. That not should come from RBI. The clearance should come from RBI. So government is saying that we're waiting for that, and also RBI. The sense we are getting, from our colleagues in Bombay, who's covering RBI, that it's a bank. It's a very critical sector. It's a very critical aspect. They have to see each and every point before going ahead with that. So it's not just that, okay, we're doing the paperwork and okay, everything is checked and let's give the approval. So they are waiting there, and I guess even the government going not in a haste to sort of conclude it. They're taking their own time. They're doing a lot of back and forth, this document, that document. So they want to be very conscious about that. This is bank, and we should be doing all the due diligence which is required.
So what about BPCL? You floated a very interesting idea that the government may resort to, given the whole coalition politics.
Well,
what Hardeep Singh Puri has said, that it is not for sale.
No, let's say hypothetically, and this is just an idea, that the center decides that BPCL, in which the center has about 52% stake right now, says that, dear Andhra Pradesh government, you take charge of this 52%. So it becomes a state PSU. So a state government owns and 52% stake sale, and Andhra Pradesh gives that money to the center. And the center takes that money and uses that money to make it part of the total allocation that it is making to Andhra Pradesh. So it would be a disinvestment, like governments in the past have done. Where there was oil companies where cross holdings were being sold, and the government got the money. Like when ONGC bought the shares of HPCL, who got the money? The central government got the money. So it will be disinvestment. But it will be disinvestment, if I may use the word, on the sly.
On the sly. So this is just going to be a swap and
it will be a swap. Yeah, it will be seen as a state-owned undertaking. But BPCL comes to the Andhra Pradesh government, and so they are happy with state PSU. But this is an idea. My understanding is that if Andhra Pradesh has made a specific demand for BPCL, the center may have to consider that demand, and after all, they're a coalition partner. So a way out would be that you give it to them, and at the same time, and it's a chunk of money. It will
But
be large.
BPCL has got a huge market valuation.
Absolutely. So it may be over a period of time. Maybe they make a 3-year plan or whatever. But the target of 51,000 crore, which is it 51,000 crore
50,000 crore
for the next year, for the current year, sorry. So if 50,000 crore remains that, so BPCL alone will be take care of that. So,
but this hasn't been done before. What the example you're also giving is from one CPSU to other, between two.
well, it has been done in many years ago. It has been done in the case of the pharma companies. State governments have taken over the central PSUs, from a corporate law point of view, there's nothing that stops the center to do this.
AKB earlier alluded to the one company that this government has been able to privatize is Air India. Now we do not have a national carrier, so to say. And government, as Srini also pointed out, wants to stay in certain strategic areas and differentiate between strategic, non-strategic. Now, given this scenario, how do you think they will rejig this whole list of companies they want to privatize? How do you think Air India has worked? Because we still go to Air India if we need, Indians to be rescued from somewhere. We still go to Air India. So.
Absolutely. I think this is going to be a tricky issue. In telecom, you cannot sell BSNL because BSNL is a strategic unit. The only, apart from MTNL, you have that. So I think following the PSU policy enunciated in the Niti Aayog paper, which the government has accepted by and large, will be a tricky issue because the government wants to stay in a strategic sector. But civil aviation, obviously, it seems that it is not a strategic sector where the government needs to be there with one company. But in oil, I think the government will be there with IOC. HPSL is a slightly tricky issue. It has already been half sold to ONGC. ONGC at any point in time can actually decide to offload those shares to somebody. But coming to Srini's very important point on banks, bank privatization is really a difficult task because RBI has to come in. There's a shareholder issue. There's a Department of Financial Services regulation of how that privatized bank will be functioning and operating as a private bank.
Who will be the promoter?
Who will be the promoter?
How they will manage?
So, what will the shareholding, dilution plan? So, RBI will have to come in. It's a long exercise. Apart from the Banking Regulation Act amendment, it is a long, complex exercise.
Is it real? What is the significance of this privatization? We've been watching it so closely.
If you see the numbers, so since FY20, they have been setting ambitious target, which now they are working on, and now the target has been less ambitious that way. But they, after the announcement of this privatization policy, they were like working, and everybody was talking about that, okay, these banks are now going to, the government will sell this bank and that company. In fact, there is a huge list of 15, 16 candidates they have shortlisted. And even in some of them, they have got cabinet approval. For example, Concor, Shipping Corp. Shipping Corp still, because Shipping Corp is a different candidate altogether, where they are waiting for the due diligence and demerger of non-core and the core assets. So after that, they have to list it, and then accordingly they will take a call. But if you see the track record in terms of disinvestment, they have in last 10 years able to fetch 4.20 trillion, in last 10 years, out of which about 3 trillion is from minority stake sale. So if you see the government kitty from the disinvestment perspective, it's largely from the minority stake sale and also OFS, and of course the IPO of LIC. So privatization as such that they are selling entirely is one candidate, which is Air India, we have seen. But now with IDBI Bank, we will see the 60% stake. Both government and LIC is there together. So we will see how it will conclude.
So if we circle back to where we started, disinvestment is not off the table. And as AKB put it very interestingly, it'll happen on the sly. So that's all we have for you today. Please stay tuned. Hope you enjoyed today's episode. Thank you for watching.